I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're taking a look at an important book. It is called War on Health. It is a thought-provoking book written by Dr. Gail Davis. It takes a deep dive into the journey of personal health and well-being, integrating spiritual insights with practical health wisdom, and challenges conventional perspectives on health and medicine. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Mainspring Books for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her wonderful book, her useful book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, thank you so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Tell me about the importance of taking a spiritual approach when it comes to health and wellness.
Well, the body is made up of mind, body, and spirit. That's just how we're made up. And all three need to be in sync if you're going to have optimal wellness. And let's face it, when I was going through my journey, I didn't tap into much of the spiritual part.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to if you want total, wellness. And I did that on my journey, and I felt like I was integrated.
Yeah.
I was one complete person, and I really truly was walking in wellness.
So tell me how you were able to integrate spirituality and the sense of spirit within a person into medicine.
Well, for me, I've always, been a Christian. But I just was not always following the word of God. So it's kind of like, the Lord knows when to get your attention. And he got mine on this journey. And I started to really reach out to him more than the doctors, because they really couldn't help me.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what you were able to achieve and accomplish by taking a more integrative approach.
Right. Well, by me being a dentist myself, a lot of my colleagues, that's who they were, doctors. And so therefore, I had a lot of pressure behind my eye. And so I started out with the ophthalmologist, for example, and I know the drill. I do it. I did it every day. I knew he probably wouldn't know what was going on, but I needed to start somewhere.
Right.
And he wanted me to take Cipro for like 30 days. And that's a very strong antibiotic. And I looked at the side effects. I mean, even death.
Right.
It was really horrible side effects. And that was something I knew I didn't want to get into. And he really didn't know. So I was referred to a neuro-ophthalmologist, and they wanted to do what they do, and that's surgery. And I wasn't going to get brain surgery.
Right.
And then, I began to get allergic to foods that I didn't even eat, and they were healthy for me, like an avocado, for example.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so maybe this has to do with my gut. So I started doing my own research.
Right.
And that's how I ended up on the journey to wellness. I just took a little bit at a time, and I felt like the Lord directed me. So I wasn't out there, by myself, just all over the place.
Yeah.
And I worked with a holistic naturopathic doctor that looked at me as a whole.
Yeah.
So it was no prescription writing. It's like, what am I doing wrong in my daily life to have gotten me in this situation? Yeah.
What do you mean by your title, The War on Health? Why don't you explain that to the audience?
Yeah, well, to me, I felt like I was in a battle.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a battlefield. And when I was walking really with the Lord through this, he took me all the way back to Genesis. And it was really funny because it was like the first conversation that God had with Adam was what to eat and what not to eat.
Right.
And then the devil comes along, the serpent comes along, and he lures them to a tree where they weren't supposed to eat anything from that.
Right.
That was not intended for them. And when I was looking at that, I said, that's what's happening today. It's the cleverest strategy against mankind. I ate the processed foods. I ate the fast food. And it's not even real food, and it had all those chemicals in it. And it broke my whole body down.
Yeah.
And that's what I concluded. So it was a battle for me to search for truth in a world that we think, well, we know it's not perfect, but
Right.
we know I mean, there's just no way we're poisoned by this food. But
Yeah.
we are. And it's
We
not
are.
food. What do you mean it's not real food? It is food, so it's a war. It's a war within yourself.
Exactly. So part of your process of reclaiming your good health has been turning more to not the supermarket Whole Foods, but whole foods.
Right.
Trying to eat more organically, trying to eat unprocessed foods, trying to eat foods with fewer ingredients, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So I had to learn how to read food labels,
Yeah.
In the grocery store. I mean, when I was going through this, we didn't have the cameras and all that on the phones.
Right.
So, I learned to, look at if it's like 10 ingredients, I'm not going to look at it for very long.
Right.
I don't need to eat it.
I
Or
think
if
5 is the magic number. If it has more than 5, you don't want it.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I did my homework, and I know organic is expensive, but so are those prescription drugs. They're a lot more than eating organic.
Exactly. And when you listen to the commercials for pharmaceuticals, they have this happy couple strolling along. Their type 2 diabetes is okay. All they have to do is inject themselves in the belly twice a day. And it's like a circus. And then using this drug can cause temporary lapse of consciousness, sudden death, heart failure. Just that's what the disclaimer is, that every time you put a substance into your body, every time you put a pharmaceutical in your body, it might save your life, but there's going to be consequences as well. So the fewer drugs you need to take, if any at all, the better off you're going to be, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I used to look at those commercials and I'm like, is anybody seeing what I'm seeing? Like, this is not okay.
Right. Exactly.
Just eat your Krispy Kreme donuts. It's not okay.
I know.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Those Krispy Kreme donuts are hard to resist, I got to tell you. But what can
I know, I used to eat them too. So
I know. I'm reformed as well. When you get a little bit older, you have a health scare, there's two ways you can go. You can say, I'm going to live my life and do whatever I please. And those people usually die, a few years to 5 years later. Or you can take a whole new approach where you're not eating the junk, you're moving more, you're exercising, you're praying, you're meditating, and bringing peace to your body. I mean, meditation can lower your blood pressure as effectively as a beta blocker, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's like you're getting in tune with yourself. Everything is at peace, and that's what the body needs. The body needs to be in homeostasis. Yes. I assure you the blood pressure will not go up. Yeah. It'll be steady. Absolutely. Everything will be functioning and working the way it's supposed to.
Exactly. And you'll have peace, and you won't be exhausted from taking a drug that suppresses your body's natural reactions to things.
Absolutely.
What practical first steps would you say readers can take to start their journey towards holistic health and a more spiritual existence?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's helpful to work with a holistic coach or a holistic practitioner. Mm-hmm. That way you have the support. That way, you have somebody to really help you along the journey, so you're not, all over the place. And they're there to encourage you. And also just start out small. My book talks a lot about practical steps you can take. But for me, like just changing small things like a green diet, introducing more fruits and vegetables, getting rid of dairy. We are not cows, we're not goats. The proteins are way too big for us to digest. Putting more omega-3s and omega-6s in the diet, and heck, drinking more water, more alkaline water, a little bit more than half your body weight, and let going of obviously the refined sugars and flours and, sodas, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Soda should be a complete no-no. Fast food should be a complete no-no. Cold cuts should be a complete no-no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like when you actually take these steps, you feel better, you have more energy, you can even think clearer. So your spirituality just goes to a new level. because
Exactly.
that spirit man can kind of rise up now that you never knew was what, you know, was there before, because of all the cloudiness and the brain fog and all that goes along with all the processed food.
Exactly. And once you
And
start
thinking.
eating right and living right and exercising, you don't want to eat the junk. If you just
No.
spent an hour at the gym, you really don't feel like coming home and having a bag of chips.
No.
You know, you might be hungry, but you're going to make a green smoothie instead. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
all of that will help you on your journey. Before we leave today, is there anything you'd like the audience to know about your book and how it can help them on their journeys?
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, I wrote this book with regular everyday people in mind. You know, it's not a rocket science. I wanted it to be a manual with everything in it, you know, something that you could refer back to. We live in a world right now where there's no critical thinking anymore.
Yeah.
It's like gone out the window. We just depend on other people to tell us, you know, what we should be doing. So I think research, I did a lot of it in the book, obviously, but that's just a start. I want people to take that book and research what I researched.
Right.
And what I'm teaching, because you know what? I wrote that book 5 years ago, and I guarantee you there's a lot more research on the topics that I put in that book than it was when I was when I wrote the book. And then I would say that you need to develop really a relationship with the creator of the universe. Right. You know, that way you're not all over the place. He knows the steps that he has for you. Right. He created a destiny for you to achieve and get to. And he's the only one that could take you there. I was done with the doctors. Yes, I'm one myself, but I was done. Right. I needed to hear what he had to say. Right. Otherwise, I would have been in a mess.
Exactly. Well, yeah. We're glad you wrote this book. It's a wonderful book. It's so helpful. All of the things you want out of life, which are, you know, a healthy weight, good health, energy, you will get them from following the tenets of this book, The War on Health. If you eat right, if you exercise, if you have a good spiritual life, the changes will be profound. You won't have to diet. If you're having salmon and spinach and you know, a sweet potato for dinner, the weight will just melt right off of you. So, you know, it's a time to make change. 2024 is coming up. If you've got a New Year's resolution, make a resolution to make yourself whole again, to make yourself healthy again, and to reconnect with God and the Creator. Dr. Gail Davis, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.